Hello, this is Paul talking about high rocket construction again. Today we're going to discuss two kits from a company called the Launch Pad. They make mid and low power rockets. Right here I have a Exocet. This Exocet, of course, is a French missile that many navies own, particularly the Argentinian Navy, and you may have heard of it from the war in the Falklands. And when I built it, you know, the one problem with launch pad kits is they're just more model rocket than high-powered rocket. This one, though, has two 24mm mounts. Last time I flew it was last year at Snow Ranch, and I flew it on two Estes E96 motors, and it flew pretty good. And I was surprised how much performance I got out of it. I had put in very thin plywood fins because when I built this 8 years ago, I always put plywood in everything, and I gooped it all with epoxy. The one thing is that the nose cone's a cheap nose cone. Instead of getting a point by giving you a nose cone that's got a point, they give you a little paper cone that you fold and you glue on top, and then you paint it with either epoxy or super glue. So right there, it's a kind of a cheat, I think. But it does work actually pretty good. And I took care to finish this like it should have been finished. This is the a French paint scheme on this. And I really like the French aerospace rockets. Anyone wants to take a look, I'm currently building a Matra missile, which is a French aircraft-to-aircraft missile slung under a lot of Dassault Mirage. Here's another kit from Launchpad. This is of an Italian anti-tank rocket called the Folgore, which means splash in English. And it's a neat rocket. It's another 24mm motor. And of course it's got this unusual 6-fin design. The 6 fins replicate the look of the rocket when it's extended in its firing mode. It's actually a tube rocket that's launched out of a tube, anti-tank rocket. In reality, these fins would fold back and sit in there, and as soon as it got ejected from the tube, they'd fold out on a spring, which would be a nice engineering thing to make, because you could make kind of a flip fin rocket like that pretty easily. This rocket flies very well. It has a lot of nose weight, as per the instructions from the launch pad. The launch pad has two excellent kits that are, one is available and one is a vaporware kit. It hasn't been available and won't be available. The kits are, I believe, the Nike Hercules, and the other one is the Nike Ajax. The Nike Ajax is the vaporware, and it is powered by 4 24mm motors. And it is the most expensive one of theirs, but it's still cheap compared to high power rockets. But nobody knows when this kit is, when it will be available. You can find it on the Countdown Hobbies webpage. That's a good place to look for it. I believe that the Nike's Hercules has 3. It's a cluster motor of 3 18mm, and the other one, like I said, is 4 24mm. That's actually a substantial motor. Now, it's good. Now that I'm in the hobby, of course, when I got in the hobby, I flew a lot of high-powered rockets, and I flew these. Then I started flying real high-powered rockets, and I used to think these kind of launch pad kits were just junk. Now that I've been in the hobby a long time, I now see the virtue of these kits. You can fly them to pretty good heights on Estes motors, or on motors that weigh less than 62.5 grams. So they fly very well in an Aerotech F. And one thing that's interesting with this motor is the first time I flew it, I did fly it at LDRS-17 in Utah. And it was another one of my screw-ups. I had 2 F motors, 24mm F motors. And somehow, I believe, they had so much propellant in them that it caused the stability problems in the rocket, that the center of pressure moved around. So I put it on the shelf and I didn't fly it for 7 years. Then I looked at it one day and I said, oh, this is a nice rocket. And I had 2 Estes E96 motors, so I put them 2 E96s, and it flew very respectably. So now I'm thinking that, you know, Estes black power motors might be the way to go, or maybe I'll try it again in a couple of Aerotech Fs. I'm not quite sure why it didn't work the first time. that was also, I remember when it failed, out in Utah, the guy on the microphone, he looked at the card and he saw it had like two bizarre Fs, two F28F and an F28.6. You know, they weren't even matched, right? And he says, Jesus, isn't everybody even checking what's in these rockets? And that was another one of my most horrible moments flying rockets, because I got dissed from the guy on the microphone. Well, thank you very much, and that's another rocketry construction talk for today. Thank you.